You watch Isagi lose to Barou. In Blue Lock, that loss is the whole point. Barou is a monster, a wall with a face, a king who plays like the goal already belongs to him. And Isagi, smaller in every way that matters, gets buried. And you already know which version you are, because you don't study the people ahead of you. You resent them, minimize them, and call it being realistic. Here's the difference that quietly runs your whole life. One response keeps you safe, the other one makes you dangerous. Most players, after a loss like that, reach for a story. He's a freak, he's built different. He was always going to win anyway. Isagi doesn't reach for the story, he reaches for the tape. He watches Barou frame by frame, not to copy him, but to find the one permission Barou gives himself that Isagi keeps refusing. That's the whole gap between the person ahead of you and you. Not talent, not luck. One of you studies the monster, the other one worships it from across the room. And here's the enemy this whole video is about. It isn't them, it's the story you tell so you don't have to study them. Because the story feels like protection. They got lucky, they had help. They're fake, obsessed, probably miserable anyway. And while you narrate them, they keep moving, and you say exactly where you are, holding a very clever excuse. You already know this feeling. It's 2 a.m. and you're on their profile again. You tell yourself you're just checking in. You're not checking in, you're measuring the distance. And then you close the tab and reach for the story again, because the distance is unbearable without it. Envy has better aim than you do. You don't envy strangers, you envy the person one step ahead in the exact game you're playing. That's not random. That's a signal, wearing a mask you are taught to hate. No one talks about this, but envy is just attention with shame attached. You already study them. You replay what they did. You know their timing, their wins, better than you know you're weak. That's evidence. You've been pouring shame on it until you can't read it. Strip the shame off, and what's left is the honest map of your own potential you'll ever be handed. And the map was never hidden. You drew it yourself. Every night you studied them and filed it under self-hatred. This might trigger you, but you don't want them to lose. You want permission to want what they have out loud. Watch what you do instead. You open their page and feel your chest go tight. You minimize the tab. Like that closes the feeling. You say you're glad for them, while your jaw does something your mouth won't admit. You call competition immature. You say you're just not like that. You bring them up just to hear someone find a flaw. You read their good news twice and feel a little colder each time. But I'm not like that is almost never true. Most of the time, it means I'm scared I can't win, so I'll pretend I never entered. If I had to start over, I'd stop performing. The contentment. I spent years telling people I was glad for them, while something in my chest kept a private score. I thought I was being gracious. I was just scared that wanting it out loud would make the failing public. So watch how Isagi treats Barou again. The monster gets smaller the moment he learns its mechanics. Timing, habits, weak spots, repetition. Fear exaggerates distance on purpose, so you never start walking. But up close, every monster has a method. And here's what nobody tells you. The work was never hidden. You already did the research. Every late night spiral of comparison was you studying them, then throwing the notes away, because reading them meant admitting the door was open. There's a trap though, hiding inside comparison. Sometimes you envy the wrong thing. And Nagi has talent that every player would trade a limb for, and for a long time, he barely cares. He's the gift half asleep. You can spend years envying someone's talent, when the thing worth having was never the talent. It was the hunger to use it. You do this with people too. You envy the loud ones, the visible ones, the ones who look effortless, when the real price was the boring hours nobody filmed. And that's the cruelest joke in it. You envy the highlights, never the discipline, the trophy, never the 10,000 reps that build the hands that hold it. You want their ending without reading their middle. Here's where Blue Lock gets cruel. Sometimes you study the distance, you close it, and you still meet Rin. Rin isn't just better, he carries himself like losing would insult reality. And sometimes your effort is real, your ego is real, and it's still not enough. And the story has no answer for that. There's no lucky, no unfair, no excuse small enough to cover a gap that's simply real. I know that one personally. I've met my Rin, and the worst part wasn't losing. It was realizing I'd built my whole story around being secretly close. But that kind of loss has information in it. Despair only helps you the moment it destroys a lie you are protecting. If it just makes you feel small, you wasted it. Here's the trade you keep making. Every time you reach for the story, you swap a hard truth for a soft excuse. The story says they're lucky, so you never have to ask what they practiced while you were explaining them away. It protects your pride, but the same wall that keeps the shame out keeps the lesson out too. The story protects your ceiling by calling it a sky. Now this is why you're still circling. Not talent, not timing. You keep choosing the story over the study, because the story lets you stay the same and still feel like you tried. And the loop is so quiet, you mistake it for peace. You think you've made peace with the gap, but you haven't. You've made peace with never closing it. You traded the ache of trying for the comfort of explaining, and you call the trade being mature. That is the audit you keep refusing to run. Not because you can't, because the answer would cost you the excuse. And some of what you call maturity is just fear that got tired of being seen and learned to call its own hiding wisdom. So let me ask you the one question that actually changes everything. What fear are you calling maturity? Because every time you say you're glad for them, you're about competing, you don't really want it anyway, look at what's underneath. Usually, it isn't peace. It's the fear of wanting something and watching yourself miss. So you call them lucky, because luck asks nothing of you. You call them gifted, because a gift is something you were simply never handed. Every word that lets them off the hook quietly keeps you off the field. So let me redefine it, because no one did it for me. Envy isn't ugliness. It isn't proof you're broken. It's directions written in handwriting you were taught to be ashamed of. It's the story you've been avoiding, told honestly for once. And reading them feels like theft. You take the discipline from one rival, the nerve from another, the patience from a third, and the people you used to envy stop being proof of your smallness and become the blueprint for who you're assembling. You stop turning them into gods, because God is just an excuse to never become dangerous yourself. And then the story brings you back. It's 2 a.m. again. You're on their profile again, and the chest is tight again. But this time, you know what the feeling is. It's not hatred. It isn't weakness. It's a map, still warm, with directions in it, pointing at a door you keep pretending is locked. You're not jealous of their life. You're grieving the version of yours that never got built. And the only question left in the room is whether the distance you've spent years calling a wall has been the directions this whole time.